What up? Alright, I'm gonna do some more Aaon stuff. Probably gonna do a redo of my the reheat stuff and all that. You know, just go over some more things. So these are our reheat valves. It goes to our reheat coil, which, you know, both of these units have them. So here, tube and fan, reheat. There's one evaporator. And that's the other evaporator. And this one has reheat also, as well as one evaporator here, one there. And this one that's a microchannel reheat. So, you know, so this unit here is 70 tons of capacity. This one here is 50 tons. There's a little bit of a difference. See how this one has the same three-way modulating valve, but this one also has a all or nothing two-way valve. Compressors, these two are lead compressors. Those are lag compressors. These have the unloader on them. Right there is the solenoid for the unloader. There's a controller. And these two are fixed. So it's all or nothing, on or off. This one will modulate between either loaded or unloaded, depending on whatever capacity the controller is giving it. 0 to 5 volts. By 3 volts is half capacity. The minimum is 1.4 volts, and which is 10% capacity, and everything below that. This is supposed to, you know, disable your 24 volts to your contactor. This one over here, I don't know if this one has them. These ones also have these weird little comfort alert things, but these two don't have unloaders. Same thing over here. You know, fix, modulating. Kind of the same idea for gas as well. Too many fucking doors here. See how this one? This is your fixed stage of gas heat. This is one stage of modulating. This is the other. Those two go to the same burner. So we're controlling it based on outside air temp. That way we can use more outside air and not use plant air, you know, for building static pressure reasons. So, so yeah, that's controlled by outside air temp. That goes to your ModGas board, which will send a signal from here to modulate your gas valve. More voltage, the more that valve will close. You can only close it so much before it cuts the flame out, so that's the limit. And the problem we had is, at first the idea was to stage one side, then the other, but it turns out this unit has 6 gas valves, 4 of them being modulation. So we kind of cut it into stages, you know, first stage, second stage, third stage. So 1A, 2A would come on, then 1B, then 2B would come on, and then your fix would come on, and these will modulate back, you know, if we ever really need that. I mean, last winter, I think the coldest day was about, you know, -10 for one day. It was a weak winter, but I'm not complaining about that. It was actually a really nice winter, to be honest. I'm really hating these covers. Copeland. It's back on here. All right. Yeah, these aren't so bad. So yeah, I figured I'd redo this video so I'm not getting interrupted, because you know already when these things unload, it gets loud and it gets annoying, you know. It ramps, you know, for however long, every 15 seconds or 15-second duty cycle. So, like I said, based on the signal that it gets on C1 and C2 on the terminals, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna modulate that unloader. It'll come on and come off. So the same idea as, you know, for your pulse width modulation, where, you know, you got your whole duty cycle and your load, you know, it would be loaded or unloaded, on or off. Because there's only two states that these compressors will be in, loaded or unloaded. If it's off, it's irrelevant and it doesn't really matter. But when it is on, it's in one or two states, loaded or unloaded. So if you want half load, you'll be loaded for half the duty cycle, unload for half the duty cycle. Average would be 50. You know, same goes with 60%, 80%, 20%, whatever. So, and how you really want to know, if you really want to know how long the unloader is going to be active for, you just multiply, well, I guess technically you would multiply 15 times your capacity as a decimal, and that would be your unloaded. Subtract that number from 15 will be telling you how long you unload. Pretty much an easy way to do it. So the capacity is controlled by a BAS system. Like, this is a vacuum controller, the tritium type stuff, you know. I believe the capacity on these are controlled by a PID loop, which just stands for proportional integral derivative. Is a few basic functions of calculus, even though you can get really complex with these things, and using more complex calculus like fractional calculus or whatever. So if you really want to, you know, figure out what your settings are going to be without experimenting with the equipment, most of the time it's usually not right, and you're going to have to tune it in experimenting with it anyways. That's if you get into that side of the business. The PID loop, it's going to look at your set value, your set point, and a process value, which is a feedback from a transducer or whatever you got going on, and it's going to calculate the error, the difference between the two. It's going to be plugged into a function that you know, your proportional gain, your integral, and your derivative, and it's going to calculate, you know, your output. Your output's going to change, your process value is going to change, and it's going to, you know, it's going to recalculate over and over again. It's a closed loop. That's how much, that's what that is. So how these are set, this is at 4%, 25%, 50%, 75% of the PID loop. Well, the output, the total, you know, the engineering value, the 0 to 100%. But so these are, each stage is only 25% capacity. Now these two are fixed, so let's not look at that right now. This can only modulate down to 10%. 10% of 25% is 2.5%. So technically you could bring this on at 2.5% of the PID loop, you know, and then this, and before I said that these should be staged on together, kind of offset them a little bit, because you don't want all that inrush current to, you know, overload anything. So, you know, and also these would be paired, that's, you know, it's designated evaporator. So, you know, and then this technically, so if these two are at 100%, that's 50%. So at 52.5%, you could bring this one on, and that would only modulate these down just down to a little bit or whatever is needed. And so this is 25% already given, so 52.5 would be split between these two as they share the same 0 to 5 volt DC signal. And same thing goes with that one when it's, you know, the PID gets up to 75%, stage 4 comes on, and, you know, these will modulate as needed. So thought I'd throw that extra bit because I kind of forgot I talked about. Forgot to talk about it when I first shot the video. So yeah, so when they unload, how the unloaders are going to work, because, you know, in any other scroll, like, you know, in residential or most, you know, any AC system basically, that has scroll compressors, you know how they work. You know, the bottom head or the bottom scroll kind of wobbles in a way. It kind of revolves, I guess. And then the top head is stationary. So as it revolves, that scroll is going to, you know, cause the volume to go smaller and smaller, compressing the gas and shoot it out your discharge. Now what these unloaders can do is going to allow that top head to come up from the bottom head and allow the system to equalize while it's unloaded, taking, you know, the load off the compressor, hence unloading. And so it's pretty much, it'll just unload for a specific amount of time to match its capacity based on a you know, a pulse width modulation ideology or whatever. So yeah, it's really basic. I mean, it's just capacity control. My opinion, I think these two should come on first. You know, you stage it a little bit so they don't crank on at the exact same time by the inrush current, because, you know, yeah, that bottle's been up there forever. Anyways, so yeah, you bring on your modulating stage first. When you get up to 100% and you need more, you bring on your fixed stage, and these will ramp down. It's kind of like when you're early on in mathematics, you know, where they have the number blocks, and you have the 10 block with a 10 by 1, and then you have a bunch of those little 1 by 1s. Kind of think of it like that. Like, these are your 10 blocks, and these are 10 of your 1 by 1 blocks. You know, so if you need like 13 or whatever, you have your 10 plus 3. 3 would be 30%. Out of 3 out of 10. I mean, it's my way of thinking of it. I mean, that might confuse the hell out of some people, but, you know, what can you do? So, okay, that's cool. Unloaders are done. Hot gas reheat dehumidification. That's another important aspect in the trade, especially when you're, you know, controlling a certain climate inside, especially when they're focused on humidity. These two units go to a paint line, so with paint, humidity is definitely a concern. Obviously, also along with temperature. So we wanted to keep it at a specific temperature and humidity. Well, that's easy. We can just, instead of rejecting the heat, you know, that we pull up with the evaporator, you know, out into the atmosphere and blah blah blah, why not reuse the heat? And, you know, we can crank up our capacity to dehumidify on the evaporator, but also reuse the heat that we would be rejecting out of the condenser back into a reheat coil. So what that's going to allow us to do is, you know, so, you know, your condenser, or I mean your evaporator is going to condense moisture, right? It gets below dew point, moisture will condense out of your drain. But then the air would be too cold, right? It's not set point. But if we reheat the air, we can maintain a specific dry bulb temperature and also control humidity by controlling the capacity. So if we control the capacity, you know, based on discharge humidity, this is going to allow our reheat board to modulate our valves to control the dry bulb. I mean, if you ever look at a psychrometric chart, you know, the warmer air you get, the more moisture it can hold. I mean, there's a guy here that's I don't really want to bash him on the internet, but he really doesn't know what the hell he's talking about most of the time. He said, and I quote, "It can be 120 degrees in here. It just needs to be 40% relative humidity." Like, holy shit. Well, let me tell you, buddy, looking at a psychrometric chart and you go to 120 and go up to 40% relative humidity, that's almost off the chart I have. So that's 210 grains of moisture per pound of dry air. That's a lot of fucking moisture. That's more moisture than 85 degrees air. 85 degree dry bulb air can hold. So I don't think that's what you really want, man. So most of these units, you know, they're set to 68, you know, they're about 45 to 50 or some other number percent relative humidity. relative humidity is relative to the dry bulb. So since, you know, the warmer air can hold more moisture, we want to look at dry bulb first and figure out, okay, how much grain of moisture do we really want dry bulb? And at that point, will give us that curve of what relative humidity that is. So, you know, it's just, you know, a basic little concept that, I mean, I get it, the guy's not an HVAC technician, he doesn't really know this stuff, but he surely acts like he does. So, whatever, not my problem. So, hot gas reheat dehumidification. I know I kind of got this wrong on my reheat video. I might actually take that video down, even though I got like over 1,000 views on it. But I would much rather do it correctly, because I kind of misled, and I kind of feel like an idiot for not, you know, correcting myself. So let me do it again. So, you know, there's a little bit difference between these two units. There's even more difference between this unit, and that unit. That's a 40 ton. This is a 50 ton. This is a 70 ton. And there's more 40 tons. There's one over there, and there's one right there. And there's a 30 ton makeup area unit, but that's different. It's a 19, or that's a 2004 or whatever the hell it is. I don't really know, to be honest. But so hot gas reheat dehumidification. So when we're enabled for reheat, we're going to send a signal to our modulating valve. Now it's going to modulate whenever we're in reheat. So it's going to look at dry bulb temperature, and it's going to heat up the air enough to you know, to get that set point, you know. So what it's going to do, and I'll kind of follow you along with this line, is, you know, this is your discharge. It goes up behind the control panel, and it comes up into this modulating three-way valve. This modulating three-way valve is controlled by these 4 wires in a certain sequence. It's kind of a weird sequence, like it goes black, green, then green switches over to red, and then black switches over to white, and then that goes over, that goes over, that. It's a weird sequence, and I think it's 12 volts or 24 volts or whatever. You know, if you look it up on the internet, you can find a chart, and it tells you certain way is closing, certain way is opening. So when this is going to start to open, like this port, it's usually at a 0%. Well, this part's blocked up, and this part will naturally send it to, you know, the condenser. You know, be your basic, you know, cycle, and it comes out through your liquid drain, I guess, to your receiver, your liquid line, to your evaporator section inlet, and it goes to your TXV. Well, I guess it goes to a filter dryer, TXV, evap, and then back on suction. But in reheat mode, when we're ready to reheat the air, this is going to modulate, and this stepper motor is going to push a plunger. Well, I guess it's going to spin it, and it's going to close this port off and open this port. And since it's modulating, some gas can go this way, some gas can go that way, unless if it's 100%, and everything's going to go to your reheat coil. Okay, so your reheat coil is, well, the way it goes, if you follow that copper line, you know, it goes up in this way, comes through, comes down, and this is your inlet to your reheat. This is going to come out of your reheat coil. It's usually cold because, you know, chilled by the air leaving the evaporator. It's going to come through. It's going to go through a check valve, so your, you know, your discharge gas won't, you know, fill up the reheat coil in normal mode. It goes into the inlet of your condenser, and that's going to give it more time to condense. I guess that's the philosophy of it. That honestly, it kind of makes sense. It gives it more volume and give it a chance to condense, because the head pressure is going to be down, because it's the evaporated air is going to drop that pressure down, and so your fans aren't going to be running. I mean, some units will have fan cycling switches. This one has VFDs for your condenser fans, so it's going to be based on your discharge pressure transducer. And 3-wire, 5 volts come in, you got a common, and your signal comes out, goes right to your VFD. So how that is. So for now on your stage 2, because only circuit 1 and circuit 2 have reheat. This unit in particular is gonna stage this valve differently than what this unit is gonna do. Because I believe what this one does is just modulates these at the same time, whether or not the circuit's running. And let's say like this is at 75%, this one will be at 75%. But if that compressor is off and then it decides to come on, that's gonna, you know, send hot gas to your reheat coil on your second circuit, and it'll more than likely will probably set back, you know. So that's how that is. Really had to dig deep, you know, finding that information about the expansion board. Notice how this one, however, does not have an expansion board. What it has is this auxiliary relay. You know, when this light is on, it's telling you that it's sending 24 volts to your solenoid coil. So when that happens, what happens? Okay, so your discharge gas is in this pilot tube, and it's, you know, it's right there waiting to go to push the plunger, and it won't go until this coil energizes magnetic field, push the plunger, or pulls the plunger open. It allows discharge gas to push the plunger, blocking off the inlet of your condenser that goes over there, and it's going to send everything to your reheat coil. It's all or nothing. It's kind of the same concept of, you know, staging your variable capacity compressor and your fixed stage compressor. So hold on, I gotta cancel my alarm real quick. Alright, it's coming up for my break. So what's gonna happen, I think I got this wrong before, but it's a retry now. If this is at 100% and we're still 5 below set point for reheat, it's gonna energize your and I think it's like a 1 or 2 minute time delay, and it's gonna engage your solenoid to, you know, reheat on stage 2. So, and then, you know, if it's too much with stage 2, that will modulate back and it'll maintain your discharge temperature. And you know how this one is, it's gonna stage these two at the same time according to, you know, demand and load and requirements and stuff, you know. So back to this one. This is all or nothing. That's their modulating 3-way valve. There's another setup. Before I take you over there, it's going to be the same thing as this, except on one line it's going to have a modulating valve and another modulating valve. They're 2-way, you know, modulating valves joined with a T to pretty much mimic this. The difference is the reverse acting. So one opens, then the other one will close. So I'll show you what that's all about. So this is our 40 ton, or one of them. I think they're all the same, I believe. So what this one has is, you know, it has the same, you know, all or nothing 3-way valve, but what on the first stage it has right there is one of your modulating 2-way valves, and then there's a T here that goes to the inlet. Why do I always forget to do this? Of your other valve, which is there. And you know, it's one opens and one closes, like a, you know, just a dehumidify or reheat the air that we're dehumidifying. Pretty simple concept. You know, it's, you know, you bring the air in, you condense the moisture out, air's too cold, reheat it instead of wasting the heat, and then, you know, off it goes. If you can reuse the heat, might as well, right? I mean, I guess whenever practical and cost permits. But when you get these nice, you know, these Aaon units, you know, it's basically, oh shit, what's happening? Oh, I'm hitting that. I should be careful with that. So yeah, that's, you know, hot gas reheat dehumidification. Do a little bit about the capacity, a little bit more about the ModGas. Now these things I haven't really looked too much into. Because whenever it's really cold outside, I'm trying to stay off the roof. I only come up when I absolutely need to. And now and then I do the maintenances, you know, in the early spring. Summer comes, which is pretty much a summer full of washing coils and shit, which most of these are getting to be microchannel, so really it's not as bad as, you know, taking the top off and splitting coils, which I think those four there are being replaced for efficiency standards. But all the ones over there are old. You got to split them. Some of them even have 3-row condenser coils, which is bullshit, but it is what it is, and whatever. It's part of the job. It's part of the trade. Learn to love it or flip burgers or learn something else, I guess. But yeah, so ModGas heating, like I said before, like this one. So yeah, this one only has 4 valves. 2 are modulating, 2 are fixed. And I don't know, let's see, ModGas valve 1 and 2. I'm thinking 1 and 2 for your mod. This is your input for your, yeah, okay. So yeah, like that one I showed that had the 2 modulating gas valves. They also have their main gas valves too to enable that stage. So you know, your gas comes in, it flex. You know, use the gas valve, comes in, you modulate flow. Same thing here, comes around, modulate your flow. And this one's fixed, so it just comes in, opens, and it's, you get what you get. So this one, on the other hand, only has the the one stage of modulation and one stage of the fix. So like I said, with like the number blocks, this is like your spray of, you know, 10 1x1 blocks. You add up to 10, you're at 100%. If you need more, you bring on that one. And now what, you're like at 11. So now you're, yeah, 10%. But yeah, but these, like I said before, you can only modulate these down so much. So there's a little bit of variance there from what I said. So windy today. One of those days where you put a jacket on and it gets too hot, take it off, and it gets super windy. But now the sun's coming out more, getting a little warm out. You know, the white roof is like a little, you know, radiant heater. Get the heat twice, which is all right in the later spring months. Not so much in the dead heat of summer. And it's not like I'm in Southern California or Arizona where, you know, humidity is low and all that. We got humidity up here, man. It gets brutal. And we got all the trees, so we get a bunch of cottonwood, man. Most of it hits these units, and of course these units are more demanded because, you know, we got a bunch of machines over there that produce a lot of heat and all that. So yeah, but all right, yeah. Thought I'd do another Aaon video. I know some like it. I like Aaons in particular. If it had my way, I wouldn't replace these trains with other trains. I'd just get Aaon units. But I understand Aaons are a lot more expensive than train, but there's also that reliability factor. And trains aren't bad either. It's not like we're putting a bunch of shit ass Goodmans or, you know, fucking Yorks or something that, you know, break down every month. But you know, it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, I like the trains. They're decent pieces of equipment. I mean, sometimes I wish the information was a lot easier to get on them, but you know, they're dedicated to their work and they don't want people copying them. So you can't really hate that too much, unless if you have something really stupid intermittent problem and yeah, that whole thing. But yeah.